Good morning. Welcome to the Water and Sewer Committee. It's Tuesday, September 26th. Present today is Councilman Clint, Public Works Director Troy Kruger, and Finance Officer Chandra Phillips. No supervisors today, so we'll turn it over to Troy.
I got nothing. We're working on radios still, continuing to install radios. I met with Mark last week. We have like 330 installed or around that number. They're slowly trickling in, so that's good. I mean, they're trickling in at a rate where we're not getting behind on our installation. So Randy's been super helpful in the office about getting the guys in the house and getting that.
How many did you say came in? Or how many are installed?
About 330.
Okay.
Just a point of interest, I guess, which I think is very cool. Out of the 330 that we have installed, the guys are getting on the computer and they're looking at them every morning, and we've already saved a couple of customers just in the last month. One had a toilet running and one had left a garden hose run, and they could see it right away on their SCADA that it was over usage, so on the census system. So we saved those customers probably a nice little hefty water bill. So that's what the purpose of the, being able to have full functionality of the meters is a wonderful thing for the public. Yeah, we'll continue to get radios installed. Gonna put a big push on that here in October. Hopefully we'll get a bigger supply and throw more manpower at it. Just trying to get rid of some of these odds and ends projects done. Sewer side, we got a sewer line over here in the alleyway. We put a new piece of pipe in earlier this year. We have to finish the rest of it. That's a project for this fall. So then I think water projects, sewer projects are kind of wrapped up. But highway project, we have one manhole to install on the north side of the highway, and they're going to do that. That'll be one of the last things they do. Casey's going to do that for us. He's working on the ditch out west right now, but that'll be one of the last things. And I've got a couple of pay requests, smaller ones. One's like 4,000, one's like 18,000 that trickled in over the last couple weeks, and they'll be on the claims list for the next meeting. But that's, other than that manhole, we're pretty much winding up on that project. I sent Mark and the guys out last week to go check all the curb stops and the valve boxes that have been installed, make sure we can get on them and make sure that they're operating correctly. We'll have a punch list by this fall for Reedy to go through, make sure everything's operational. That's about all I got. You have any questions, Councilman Clint?
I do.
No, not really.
I do. Right now, the way sewer is shaping up for the year, the revenues are so low that we're deficit spending. Have you two talked about a plan on what we're gonna do when that enterprise doesn't meet its cash flow?
So we haven't spoke about this, but this is something I have mentioned in some other meetings too. Due to the way that our software works, some of that revenue is from cash on hand, and to show that on the revenue side, it's not working. Now we've come up with a plan with our system for future years on how to make that show. Ultimately, what we will do is we will put that cash that we're going to spend, we're gonna take it out of cash and put it into a holding account, and then we'll move it from the holding account into that cash on the revenue side so that it shows that you've received that cash.
So this number doesn't reflect,
that cash. that
The
you were
cash.
using. Correct.
okay.
So he didn't, I saw that right away, and he didn't have his revenues printed off, or I could show you,
I
tell
pulled-
you exactly what they are.
I pulled it up right away.
Okay.
So.
I mean, they're still under, I agree, but they're not deficit spending under type of deal.
But according to this report, it looks like it is.
Correct.
It's just that this year's revenues, but
But,
it's gonna be very hard, right now, it's because of all the ARPA money and all the stuff that's in there because of the highway project. Next year will be a lot clearer picture because it'll just be his revenues.
also the cash on hand last year that we moved in is not showing. And
So it
that's,
doesn't show that we received it as a revenue. We know it's there. Our
But in
audit
this
reports show-
report,
this
it
report just
does
doesn't
not.
show it. But we have come up with a way in future years. Number one, in future years, when we have a major project like this, it will not come directly out of this department fund that the project's for. It will have its own separate 500 capital fund.
sure.
So it's not gonna affect your typical day-to-day of that department. So that's number one. And that'll actually make it easier because if we've set money aside out of a outlay, it will get transferred over to that 500 fund. So in future years, it's gonna look great. This year, it comes down to, we just have to explain what the reports are saying. Our auditing is fine on it because we show that we've got cash over here. It's just this report doesn't show it.
It doesn't take
accurately.
into account the cash on hand. All right, that's,
That 317, like the year-to-date, the favorable balance is pretty accurate for what Mark, what Mark looks at.
That's his expense. He's talking expenses. We were talking about.
I'm looking at the revenue side.
Yeah,
And when you bring them together, it was believed that they never talked to each other. They always talk to each
They
other.
do.
They do.
I agree.
They
but-
do.
But they don't.
They do. Because at the end of the year, if your
They don't
revenues,
talk to each other line by line.
they don't talk line by line.
Yeah.
But at the end of the year, if the revenues are not enough to support the budget we
Correct.
passed,
So
So-
when I close out my months, a lot of times I will, I always, for my records, come through and actually figure out exactly where we are on for revenues, because we know we've got the cash there. Because it was, you can look at January 1st to see the cash was there. In fact, next month, in my finance committee, I'll be asking that we close out the ARPA account, because we've spent it and we no longer need it in a separate non-interest bearing account, so we can close that account out, put it directly into the water. We've spent it, and then.
does that go into
the
cash on
outlays.
hand?
Yeah, it's reimbursing the cash that you received. Yep, so next month it'll look a lot cleaner,
Okay.
is my goal.
This is the biggest project we've ever done. in the
Highway
last-
project?
Yeah, in the last 9 years.
No, jail's bigger than that.
Hmm.
Highway was 900,000 and then it was 1.7. Or it was 1.2 and 1.7, I think.
This is the biggest project the public cares about in the last 10 years. But,
And
okay,
this project, so the difference is this project started before this administration, so it was, I mean.
It was
yes, we're
handed off.
here, but it was kind of handed off. The jail, we did it correctly. We created a 500 fund. It wasn't part of that department, and so it was easier to keep track of, and
Yeah, this project actually started in 2017. That's when the original,
actually it started in 14.
that's when
all
the,
of our originals
that's when
were out there.
that's when the very first set of as-bills came out, 2017.
the city started transferring money in 2014 for it. So, 10 years all told.
But I mean, you've been paying engineering fees and you've been
Yeah.
paying all that kind of stuff for quite some time. Yeah, we're basically one manhole away from being,
And a lot of sidewalk. What's,
yeah, but you've already transferred that.
69,000.
yeah,
That's already a done deal.
We just haven't paid it.
The only unknown yet is the last pay request for the manhole, which is, I think it was like $4,700 for a manhole installation. So it's nothing big.
And then there'll be a final pay request, just like all projects, that we keep a percentage of all inventory. We keep that back during the project, so you'll see that there's a percentage on every project that we hold. And without it in front of me, I'm not gonna say the correct term, so I apologize. And then at the end of once the project's complete, then we give them that percentage back at the final payout request. So I think the last pay request I saw, and I haven't seen these two new ones, is just shy of 200,000 total that we owe.
I was thinking 188, I don't know.
But that did not include the 60-some thousand for the sidewalk, so we're right around 200,000 still remaining in payouts.
It won't be that much. We've already paid for, we've already paid for all the materials on this project, so as Jake goes through there, you'll get a request, and then he deducts out all the, he deducts out all the materials that we've already paid for. So that 200,000 won't, it looks like it, but it won't be that. It'll be a lot less, because we've already paid for all the materials.
Minus the percentage.
Yeah.
Councilman Clent? You answered my question, the two of you did, so I'm good.